After fairly long flights from the UK and Canada, 14 of us found ourselves in the Panda Hotel Yangon, where we met up with our guide, the lovely Zaza, who proved to be a super leader who was always happy, smiling and informative. She always wore the loveliest Burmese costumes and the traditional Thanaka face makeup, made from ground bark, which has been used by Burmese women for over 2,000 years. It acts as a sunscreen as well as a cosmetic decoration. On our first evening we had a group dinner together, and Zaza reminded us of our itinerary for the next couple of weeks. After sightseeing in Yangon tomorrow, we will fly to Heiho and then drive to our hotel near the Ini Lake, where we will stay for the next 3 nights. After exploring the lake, we will take a local train up to Kailor for 2 nights, from where we will trek to the Shan Highlands. Next, we will drive up to Mandalay for 3 nights, and then take a boat down the Irrawaddy River to the site of the first Burmese kingdom and the Buddhist temples of Bagan. After exploring the temples, 6 of us will go on to Nepali Beach, and everyone else will return to Yangon and the end of the adventure. 7:30 the next morning, and we found ourselves on a minibus with a short hop to the Sui Edigon Pagoda, which is a stunning Buddhist monument and a highlight of any visit to Yangon. Zaza quickly set the scene for us, explaining the layout of this most sacred site and the 320-foot Zedi, which is adorned with 27 metric tons of gold and countless diamonds and other gems. The site is laid out in a square, and there are shrines dedicated to every day of the week, with 2 for Wednesday morning and afternoon. I was born on a Saturday and received the full works from a lovely little old man. Wandering around this beautiful site, it was difficult not to be moved by the pilgrims and the restful atmosphere. Zaza was always keen to introduce us to locals and explain who they were. All too soon we were back in the busy city and looking at some of the many colonial buildings that still dominate the landscape. Yangon has the highest number of old British colonial buildings in Southeast Asia, although most have been repurposed for modern day use. We then move on to a huge building which is the home of a 65-foot-metre long reclining Buddha, whose feet even tell a story. After lunch, we're whisked away to the airport for a 60-minute flight to Heiho for our 3-night stay to Ini Lake. On the way to our hotel, we stopped off at this family-run paper-making workshop, where we saw the processes right from pounding the bark of the mulberry tree to the finished sheets of the famous Shan paper. The process is quite long, as the bark has to be soaked for several hours before being beaten with a wooden mallet.
That station? Yeah. That one? We cannot
After lots of mixing, flower petals are added to the final paper sheets.
This is their traditional method. So normally just dry in the sun. It depends on the weather. Normally, nowadays, only within 2 hours it can be dry. No? Yeah, you can see with the flower, you can feel it. That's it. Nowadays, they use in different purposes, no? White wrapping paper, umbrella. Okay. Nowadays, they use in 2 different purposes. One is only for the summer. Now this is just.
In the same workshop, the family also make beautiful paper umbrellas, and Paul started the ball rolling by buying a large parasol. Credit cards were suddenly out. Support for the local economy was underway. Next morning, after a good breakfast, we leave the hotel at 8:30 for the short walk to our long-tail boats. Unfortunately, on the way to the jetty, Jean managed to slip and twist her ankle, which hampered her for the rest of the holiday.
So we just turn right in Yangshui. We are in Yangshui now. So this is the lake. So the inland lake, it is 22 kilometer long and 11 kilometer wide. But at the time they
Soon we are leaving our village in 3 boats down through the waterways to Inny Lake. This is to be our mode of transport for the next 2 days. Our first objective on reaching the lake is to find some of the local intra fishermen who practice a strange form of leg rowing and fishing with nets. We don't have long to wait, as the fishermen suddenly appear for the tourist boats and demonstrate their unique skills. A little later we've crossed the lake and enter the waterways, where we begin to see the stilt houses and floating gardens. The local people have lived this way for centuries and it is totally unspoilt. However, the way of life is under pressure from the demands of tourism and moving into the 21st century. We take a side stream where Zaza is able to show us how the farmers plant the floating gardens.
The narrow road, at the time you see the plantation on your left hand side is the pumpkin. There is a pumpkin plantation. So that one is just a nursery plantation, so they put the seeds on the floating garden. So firstly for the floating garden on the bamboo frame, and then they put the floating garden and floating soil, and then they spread also the weeds from the lake and the soil as well. So it becomes fertile, and then now they can grow whatever they want.
Many little businesses thrive by the waterside. This one makes traditional cheroots, which can be flavoured with a variety of dried leaves and tamarind.
They can put some of the tobacco leaf, and then we mix with the tamarind. Really good. But it is strong. That one is very light. If you want to try, you can try. Try in the sand, and after that they can get the ingredients. There is a filter in here.
Some of us, of course, just had to try the finished product.
size what we took off now. So
in the back of the same building we saw how they make the traditional longtail boats. Again, everything is worked simply by hand, using skills passed down from generation to generation. After lunch and a visit to a cat sanctuary, we moved downstream to a blacksmith who produce implements for the local farmers. The finished blades may look crude, but boy are they razor sharp. We also saw silver and other metal goods produced. The quality of the craftsmanship of these handmade items is exceptional. Nearby we move on to a lotus weaving factory, where again we see age-old skills and machinery in use. The concentration and level of skill of these ladies is amazing. It makes you wonder how long it will be before modern working conditions and regulations change the way of life of these people forever. On our way back we stopped off at a small settlement of Kayan women who wear distinctive brass neck rings, which several of us found quite disturbing and didn't take any pictures. Next day we are back in our long-tail boats again by 8:30 and cross the lake to see the Fa Ang Do U pagoda. This pagoda houses the revered golden Buddha images, which are paraded around the lake every year in a gilded barge. For the rest of the time, pilgrims come to worship, and men only are allowed to rub gold leaf into the images. Over the years, the layers of gold have built up and totally obscure the original statuettes. Today, in the shadow of the pagoda, the market is double its normal size, as it is host to the 5-day rotating market. This rustic market rotates around several towns and villages in the Inni Lake region. Traders descend bringing fresh produce and of course fresh fish from the lake. It is still fairly authentic, with tribal people coming down from the hills to trade livestock and produce. The people are all very friendly and happy to show us what they have to offer. We have fun trying to identify the various produce. Further round the backwaters we make our way to the Sui Indian pagoda complex. It is very hot and difficult to concentrate. Here there are 1,054 pagodas in various states of repair, from the tumble down right through to fully restored golden stupas. All totally awesome, but almost too hot to appreciate. Again, the sheer size and quality of some of the craftsmanship is difficult to believe. Fortunately, there are a few shady spots to escape the sun and the dazzling gold stupas. Back in our hotel by early afternoon, some of us have opted to go on a wine tasting visit to the Red Mountain Estate. It's a beautiful setting, however the wine got mixed reviews. More successful was a visit to a cookery school which a dozen of us opted to try in the evening. We produced a vast number of dishes including soup, curries, various salads and tasty side dishes. It proved to be a great hoot, which culminated in a superb banquet that we all took part in producing, even if the men did mistake crayfish for greyfish. Our hosts were two delightful sisters who guided our unskilled efforts most tactfully. It rounded off a great day. Next morning we had a 7 a.m. start and just time to see the local monks collecting their daily ration of rice from the townsfolk, which is a ritual carried out every morning on their way to their pagoda. For our part, we board the bus taking us to the station for the next leg of the journey.